It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's the GOAT.
And welcome back to another episode of the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast, everybody. Welcome back, Bubba Bunch. It's been a minute. It's been close to a week and a half since our last episode. We're joined by Kevin once again. You know, it's been a couple weeks,
Yes,
but
sir.
it's rightfully so that we bring you back for some Dallas Cowboys talk.
Yes, sir.
We'll get into it. Dak Prescott, Jamal Adams, Ezekiel Elliott, all the big names have come out on the Dallas Cowboys in a very kind of peculiar time in the NFL, to where like now we're starting to think about whether or not COVID will affect the season. But still a lot going on with COVID, still a lot of trade talks and contracts, especially with Dak Prescott over the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. I'd just like to start this off by talking about the reason why I wasn't making the podcast this last week and a half, and I haven't really been active on social media. I didn't feel comfortable talking about it until now, and even then it's still kind of hard to talk about. But last Sunday, not this Sunday, but previously, we did have to put our family dog down. She did have a lot of health issues. She was getting very old. I mean, she was probably over 100 years old in dog years. But she lived an amazing life, and we made the decision to do that after we took her to the clinic. And, yeah, so I just didn't feel in the right mindset to talk about it or to kind of fake a podcast and be all happy like I usually want to be, because that's all this I want to be is a happy podcast where you can just listen and have a good time. And I didn't want to fake that at all. I wanted to take some time and really, you know, adjust to a life without our dog that we love so much. And now it's tough to move on, but we definitely have Dory in our hearts and our minds. And if you guys know me personally, you've been to my house, then you know who she is and how she acts. And she's a great dog. She's in a better place now. Definitely didn't want her to suffer. So that's the reason why. And I appreciate, you know, Kevin. And not a lot of people knew about it. I didn't talk about it a lot, but the people that did know about it, I appreciate all your condolences and your prayers. I appreciate that a lot. So this episode is dedicated to my dog, Dory. We're gonna do some great things. We're gonna have a good time. We're always gonna keep her in our hearts for sure.
Yeah, man. I saw your tweet and I texted you. I was like, listen, man, like, I understand if you don't talk about it, but, you know, just know that, you know, I'm here. And you told me, and I was like, man, that's rough. Like losing a family dog that, you know, you had for so long. Like, I feel you, man. It sucks, but I'm, like I told you, like, I'm glad you did what you did and like held out for a while, because faking something you love is just not good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll do like normal things around the house, or I'll go out and do like grocery shopping, go to the gym, and I'll just like 1 second think about it. I'm like, oh, if I did this in the podcast, I mean, it's basically like there's no point, because I just put out like a negative like type of feel, or just, you know, kind of like that vibe of sadness. So I didn't want to do that. But now I feel like, you know, it's justified to kind of move on and to really look forward and continue what we're doing. Really great things here, and kind of, what's the word? I guess, lack of a better term, continue the grind.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so all right, let's talk about it.
All right.
Dak Prescott. Let's just start off with that, because that is the most recent discussions right now. So yesterday, on Monday, he did sign the franchise tag for just over $31 million that he was offered a few months ago, like around March. He did sign it, and this is kind of like a weird kind of feeling of like, all right, we're happy that Dak Prescott is going to be the quarterback for this year for sure, and he's going to show up at training camp. Yet this is kind of still up in the air as far as like, what is the long-term discussion here, because there's conflicting reports here and there of like Mike McCarthy saying, hey, yeah, we have talked to Dak about the contract, and then there's ESPN, there's Bleacher Report saying there has not been legitimate discussions on his contract for months, ever since March. So yes, the franchise tag is done, and Dak's gonna get paid like over $31 million, which is phenomenal. It is
Mm.
way more than he's made ever since he joined the NFL.
Yeah.
But is this, as far as salary cap, trying to get other players like Jamal Adams into the Dallas Cowboys organization, and as far as long term for the big money they're going to have to spend on Dak if they want to sign him to a long term deal, is this the right move?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned like the last thing you said, where is this the salary cap issue? So I if I understood everything correctly from the article that I read, having Dak this year, like it makes everything, a little bit like safer, if that's the right word, because we have him for this year. He's our quarterback. However, now this franchise tag kind of opens up a lot of like, I wouldn't say problems, but now it's going to be more like under stress. One, because now that he signed this franchise tag, they only have until July 15th. I think that's what
Yes,
I
July
understood.
15th.
Yeah, that's the deadline to where they can sign a long-term contract. If they don't sign him after that, they have to wait until next season, and that's going to be a huge problem. One, this new CBA agreement that the NFLPA made with the NFL, it's just going to make things even harder. I think like I read it in terms that starting next year, like to I guess compare, if the Cowboys were to franchise tag Dak again next year, it'd be for like $38 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a ridiculous like increase just to franchise tag, like, and then if they wait until next season to make a contract for him, like it'll have to be around that 38 million a year. So they got to do something on the quicks. They have 3 weeks. I mean, it's been what, 6 months now that he probably should have had a contract, but
Beginning of like the 2019 season.
yeah,
Like it
exactly.
was like week one. It's like, hey, that week, like they could pay Dak, and then they're set for 4 or 5 years, and then
Yeah.
they would have gotten it cheaper because of the fact that this previous season, was the season where like, is Dak the guy? I mean, we
Mhm.
we knew that he's the guy, but as
Yeah.
far as like the money sense of it, it was his last year in the rookie contract. They're looking for the extension, and it was like, okay, well he's really good, but can he be the MVP level, which he proved to a lot of people
Yeah.
that he was. Every
Mhm.
stat that I've seen over the last like few weeks, it's like Patrick Mahomes, and he's right there with them. Like
Yeah.
it's like deep ball, it's like accuracy. He is like at least a top 10 quarterback. And the
Yeah.
way that the market's going, he's going to get paid. It's just a matter of when and how much. Now, with this whole like franchise tag, there's three ways that you can really look at it. It's one of them is that they're nowhere near a contract
Mhm.
like agreement. So this is just a safety. This is a safety net for the Cowboys to have him for the season. Dak still gets his money, and then ultimately this is for his benefit because he'll get paid more in the future.
Yeah.
The second reason is they're close to a contract, and they still want to just kind of look at some of the small details of it. They still have the 3 weeks, obviously, till July 15th. But with the whole COVID situation, there's no guarantee of what's going to happen this season. So if they can just
Yeah.
secure him another safety blanket, essentially, for this year and for the years to come, depending on if the season even happens, this franchise tag puts him down as like, yes, he is our quarterback. You can't go anywhere.
Yeah, so I think the way I'm seeing it right now, it's like more of the security blanket, just because of, I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen. Nobody knows what's gonna happen. So this franchise tag is kind of like, all right, like we got you, like you're gonna get your money for this season, like no matter what happens. But man, like the other way I'm seeing it is just like, if they don't do something in these 3 weeks, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a real big problem. Just because next season, because of that CBA I was talking about, man, we're gonna have to pay so much money that we're basically gonna be gutted. I mean, free agency next season isn't gonna happen because we just have to pay him. You know,
Yeah.
like while I agree that he deserves his money, I mean, he's our quarterback, but I mean, the quarterback is not the whole entire team. We need help. We need help on both sides of the ball. It's a rough situation. I mean, we'll see what happens in these next 3 weeks. We'll see what Jerry Jones. Well, I say Jerry Jones, but we all know who's handling that situation. It's Stephen Jones.
Right.
So we'll see what Stephen Jones does. Um, it's crazy. There's like when I remember I saw the news yesterday and I was like thank God like we got him. But then like I started reading all these other articles of like what this like all the implications of this means, and it kind of just brought me down. Like damn, like thank God, but also like damn, what are we gonna do? You know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, like it is, in my opinion, like this franchise tag like signing is a win-win for both sides because it gives the Cowboys time, and then it puts them like not get like backs against the wall because that's really what it was if it really came down to these last like few weeks, especially with COVID going on and the up in the air about the season. But it's also a win for Dak. No matter what, you're getting paid over $31 million like right now, and you're gonna get that money in a few weeks. And if you get franchised next year, you get even more money, and that's like the highest base salary that you can get in the NFL right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you get the contract, whether it's with the Cowboys or with another team, because they will be willing to pay for him, he is going to get a fat contract. Fat contract that is guaranteed more money than Jared Goff, which is essentially what I believe is right because he's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. He gets a higher salary base-wise than Russell Wilson. Do I think he's better than Russell Wilson? No. But over these next few years, it's not just Dak that's going to get this type of contract. We've seen Ryan Tannehill get $30 million out of his ass. Don't know why, but he got $30 million for handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. I could have gone in there and done that. So don't tell me that Dak's the only guy that doesn't deserve the money. Deserving the money is not a thing in the NFL, especially for a quarterback.
Yeah, and we were talking about this recently too, that just like, you know, everybody knows that the quarterback market is just completely inflated. Like, I mean, I've been very vocal about like, you know, the quarterbacks that are like above 30 mil. And, you know, like I said it, I don't think a lot of them deserve 30 mil. Matt Ryan, absolutely not. Matthew Stafford, absolutely not. You know, to a certain degree, does Carson Wentz deserve it? Talent wise, yeah. But I mean, do you really want to pay $30 million to a quarterback that could play like 6 games and he's out for the rest of the season?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. So I do agree with you that, you know, like, and you know, the biggest issue about these contract talks with Dak has been the longevity of the actual contract itself.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
We want to give him 5 years so we can keep him in Dallas, but he wants 4 years so that, you know, right now he's 24, correct?
26.
24, 20. Is he?
I thought he was 26.
25. Okay, well then I might be mistaken. But so if he's 25, 26, we want to give him 5 so he can stay until Dallas till he's 30. But like him and his agent are like, nah, like we want it 4 so that I can still play and still make money. Which, you know, I understand. Like as a Cowboy fan, obviously I wanted to be a Cowboy forever. But hey, like it's business. Like the man wants to get paid.
Because in 4 years, the market is going to be even more inflated.
Yeah, exactly. And look, listen, the one thing that I think the one player that's going to absolutely destroy the market for this quarterback system is Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
Once he gets paid, everything's gonna hit shit's gonna hit the fan.
I mean, I'm thinking at least $40 million a year.
Oh, for sure.
At least
100%.
And then I'm saying like probably 140 mil guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like that's just to me like the number that pops up. And even then I'd say it's Patrick Mahomes. Like, I mean, he's taking advantage. He comes in the right time of like a quarterback market to where he is the best in the NFL right now. He has proven that by winning a Super Bowl and an MVP. Yeah. And only one major injury, but that only kept him out for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And it is the most impressive quarterback play that I've seen in my lifetime as far as athleticism and talent.
Oh man, 100%. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback, you know, as good as him. I mean, you know, because we saw Brett Favre when we were younger, but like we saw Brett Favre like towards the end of his career, you know? Like we didn't see like Super Bowl 1996 Brett Favre where my man was just slinging everything. He was just he was the Patrick Mahomes of back then, you know,
Right.
and now it's just, you know, like we're seeing this before our very eyes. And you know, back to the point on Dak, where it's all like, okay, so if Patrick gets paid 40 million, you know who's next, Lamar.
Right.
If Lamar keeps this pace, where you know, like he's a monster, got to fix that playoff issue. But you know, other than that, like he's still worth the money. You know, what if Lamar gets like 44, 43 guaranteed a year? Who would be next after that? I mean, what? Let's say for all intents and purposes, Joe Burrow freaking turns around Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
Somehow, okay, by the miracle of God. What if in 4 years he gets paid 45 million, 46?
Yeah.
You know, like it's one of those situations where right now I think specifically for Dak, these next 3 weeks something's got to happen, because if not, the Cowboys are going to be gutted. Next season is going to be literally our whole, basically the majority of our salary cap on just Dak. So it's some crazy times right now, just with like this whole franchise tag.
It's eventually you got to start thinking about restructuring contracts
Yeah.
of the players that you've recently signed, especially Zeke, Amari Cooper, who I thought was not overpaid, but that it is a large amount of money to pay for a guy that personally I thought they could have gone away with and let him go, and I think they would have been fine. I love Amari Cooper, but there is some concerns for a guy that's gonna get paid $100 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It was 5 years, right?
5 years, yeah, 100 mil.
Yeah.
And then what, like 60 of that was guaranteed? 60 mil?
Yeah. My only concern with Amari Cooper is just that thigh injury, like that plagued him for a good like 3 games this season. Like, you know, because you can tell when some people, when some players get injured. Like, for example, look at Alvin Kamara. Like, my man was, his body was broken this season. Like, I feel bad for that guy, and he was still playing, at a, you know, a good level. But you know, this one was very obvious that it was like hurting him really bad. Like, I mean, for those 3 games, Amari Cooper was basically non-existent.
It was a liability on the field. It really
Yeah.
felt that way. I
Yeah.
love watching Amari Cooper, like that Giants game when they
Oh
were
my
just
God.
like on
Yeah.
like in sync. It was one of the most amazing things I saw throughout the Cowboys season. But
Yeah.
also in like those games, like let's say the Jets, let's say the Lions, it's like
The Patriots game,
the
that was the
Patriots
worst one
game,
for him.
it's
Yeah.
like he's on the field, but there's no point. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason for him to be on the field because the defense knows he's not going to do anything. Even if he catches the ball, he can't go anywhere. He's not fast. He's not agile right now. He is, like, as far as like overall what he can do, but right now with that foot, with that thigh injury, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So it just
So-
built up.
Yeah, so I think for sure, depending on what happens right now, if they don't pay him, for sure some contracts are going to have to be restructured. You know, we're talking about Z, we're talking about Cooper. You know, we're maybe even talking about some of the O linemen. And for me specifically, maybe Tyron Smith, because I love Tyron Smith. Wait, did I call him Tyron, or
Yeah, Tyron.
it's Tyron? Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If that man has been arguably in one of the best offensive line we've ever had in Cowboys history. But, you know, we're going to talk about it once again. Injuries. I mean, I love him to death, but my man is getting injury plagued almost every single season. So, you know, I think it's going to be eventually time where we're going to have to start looking at some offensive linemen and be like, hey, like, we need to pay Dak. Can you restructure your contract? You know, right now on the defensive side of the ball, not anybody has a big term contract because our defense is so young, minus the players
DeMarcus Lawrence.
Well, yeah,
Let's restructure that. Let's restructure that. We got to restructure that because
I was gonna get to him, but yeah, we got to restructure him. Is he worth the money? Absolutely, but
long term wise, it's
long term wise, I'd rather have Dak than DeMarcus Lawrence.
I mean, it was easier back in the day, like in the Tony Romo era, because Jason Wynn would do it every season. He'd restructure a contract. Sean Lee, early on in his career, restructure that contract. So defensively, I think it's easier to do that for guys like Lane Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence. Like, these guys will come in. Like, even Gerald McCoy, I think eventually will be like, look, I can can get away with a little bit less money. I'm fine. I've made enough in my career. Jared McCoy is a great guy. Love him to death. I think he's going to be a Cowboys favorite this year.
Wonderful guy, yeah.
Awesome guy over this offseason. It's going to be like the Zeke. It's going to be the Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, I think so, because he took less money to stay in Dallas. So I think he'll take less money to stay in Dallas and also help other guys stay in Dallas, especially with Dak, who he's built a great relationship with. So if that's the ultimate thing, like, hey, if you want Dak to stay as your quarterback, Mari, give us like 20 mil. Like, give us like, just bring it back a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, okay, well, I mean, like, he's a humble guy. Zeke is going to be a little bit more difficult because the guy just wants the money, right? Yeah. So eventually that's going to be a thing. And I think that's what, with any team, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
The salary cap helps that it does get inflated and it's going to go up over the next few years. This is a weird situation because if fans can't be in the stands or if it's a limited amount, the ticket sales are going to be down, the revenue is going to be down. So the salary cap can't be as high next year. It's going to be tough. But look, man, it's something you have to do. It's absolutely something you need to do by signing Dak to the franchise tag, and I'm glad that he took it because at this point, I don't want Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is a great season for the Cowboys for them to push far into the playoffs and make it to the Super Bowl. This is a great chance to it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying this is a great chance to do it. They've had opportunities, but I think this year they are overall a solid squad with a great coaching staff, a front office that finally realizes, hey, we don't have to do everything. We can let coaches coach. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. It's like we hired them for that reason. So by signing Dak to at least 1 year, you have that window. You have that 1 year. And whether or not they sign him or not, it's got to be to where next year, worst case scenario, they sign him to that franchise tag again. Look, you may not be able to get all the best players that you can, but at least your foundation's there. So ultimately, any NFL organization is going to go through this. There is a window that you're going to have for a Super Bowl or for a championship. And this is honestly like the beginning of what the Cowboys can do. I thought 2016 was the window sort of opening. They finally realized they can open that window. And ever since then, it's like, it brings in a draft. Like, it's a little bit too cold. I don't think we're ready for this. Now it's like, it's a sunny day. Let's open it up.
I feel like 2016 was the season where like we had the players and the players were opening the windows themselves, but we all know who was closing that damn window.
Yeah, Jason Garrett's like, nah.
We all know. Nah. Sorry, let me leave first. And
let me go ask Jerry if it's okay.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it was. It was like, Jerry, can we open the window? Jerry's like, no. Like, no,
not yet.
I'm opening up that window myself. And that's just to let in the money.
Now Mike McCarthy's in there and he's forcing that window open. Well, at least we hope, because Mike McCarthy's proven. So, man, it should be a great season, man. It really should. This Dak situation, I really hope it plays out because we got another situation that, man, I hope it happens. Man, I hope it happens.
The man who wants to be a Cowboy and has publicly said that in a viral video. Mm-hmm. Wasn't he in like a G-Wagon? Like my boy was in a
G-Wagon, dude. Yeah.
Was he in Dallas? Like, was he in Dallas?
I'm assuming because I don't see why a New Yorker would ask.
That's true.
Jamal Adams.
I mean, like, it's not like fucking Eli Manning's like, hey, you want to go to Dallas? He's like, yeah, Eli.
Hey, take me with you. I want money.
Oh, no. Please don't.
Oh, God, no.
I mean, if that ever happened, I think it'd be like a funny joke for me to buy an Eli Manning Cowboys jersey.
Yeah.
Like, that would be, I wouldn't even wear it. I just like hang it up on the wall.
Wait, man. You wouldn't want his Hall of Fame jacket?
That pissed me off so much. I mean, I'm so fucking tired of Eli Manning.
I don't think I've ever like heard an argument so, I guess, invalid about there's been some, but this tops the tops as one of the most like invalid arguments I've ever heard about a player's like Hall of Fame status in my life.
You can make the argument all you want. It's like he's won 2 Super Bowls. If that's your only argument, no. The other argument, well, I make the case that he's led like the NFL in interceptions like 3 times.
Yeah.
And Brett Favre did the same thing. Like he led the NFL in interceptions. I'm like, yeah, but Brett Favre, that was a part of his game. Like he was a gunslinger. He just said fuck it. With Eli Manning, he'd be like, oops, like, oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like for me, like the greatest example I'll always use when determining a player's worth of Hall of Fame, Dan Marino. Dan Marino, in my opinion, is the greatest quarterback to ever live that never won a Super Bowl.
Without a doubt, yeah. Like
you
didn't need a Super Bowl in order to fulfill his legacy.
Exactly.
If you need that, if you need like 2 Super Bowls as your main argument, and then say, oh, he was also a great leader and a great player. I'm like, a great player is not the word for that. That was absolutely not the word. The reason he was there for so long and he had the record for most starts with one team is because the Giants didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know that they could move on. They just thought, hey, we got to respect him. He's won his 2 Super Bowls. Like let's let him play for 5 extra years.
Yeah,
it was just dumb. Let's just go on. This is dumb.
Let's
this is dumb. I've said this enough. And if people say, oh well, he's still a great player. He still won 2 Super Bowls. Get the fuck out of here. I don't care. I really don't care. So, okay, Jamal Adams. Look, man, I'm kind of getting like annoyed. I'm kind of getting tired of it as well. Just because of the fact that I'm hearing conflicting reports with Jamal Adams as well. I'm hearing he wants to leave. He is saying everything he can to get the fuck out of New York. And he should. He should leave New York. Because it's a terrible organization that's going to waste his career. That does nothing for him. They're not going to build a franchise around him. I feel bad for Sam Darnold, even though I think Sam Darnold is a bust. But that's not it. He's not going to succeed at all. He's not going to prove me wrong by having one good wide receiver and a running back that basically doesn't want to be there either. There's no point in being in New York. So if Jamal Adams wants to leave, just say it. Don't give me these little like sub tweets. Don't give me like these little like jabs. Like just say, I'm ready to go.
So I think his statement of that he wants to be traded is his way of saying like, I want to get out of here. And I don't know if you saw these tweets. I saw them this morning, actually, believe it or not. And, from what, there's a reporter, I think her name is Jane Slater.
Love Jane Slater.
Yeah. I don't know if it was for her, for sure her, but I'm highly sure I remember that name. She tweeted out and she was saying that one of the main reasons why he wants to leave is because, one, what you said, that like he knows that they're not going to build a system around him. Like,
right.
He just knows.
It's a Jalen Ramsey type of situation.
Yeah,
exactly. I heard that from Colin Cowherd, and I feel like that's justified. Like Jalen Ramsey wanted to win, and he wasn't going to win in Jacksonville.
He wasn't. No. So it's that, and then she also said that one of the things was that it was a trust factor. He doesn't trust the Jets anymore because apparently it came out that my man was like, hey, I mean, I'm like top 3 safety in the league, top 5 safety in the league. Why am I not getting paid like it yet? Granted, this is going to be his 3rd year. I understand. But still, he wants to get paid already, which arguably he deserves it. And they don't want to pay him. They said it outright. He didn't want to pay him, in his own words, that they didn't want to pay him.
Now, there's also the other situation for the trust issues that happened last season during the trade deadline, where they said they would not trade him. They told him straight up, we weren't going to trade you, or we're not going to trade you. And then immediately there was reports that they are getting calls and they're actually going out of their way to calling other teams to see what they can get for him. Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of those trust issues came into play about Jamal Adams. After that, that's when he played the rest of the season. He was like, I don't want to be here, but I'm going to play because I want to play. So I'm gonna basically do an audition for other teams and say, this is why you should get me. This is why the Dallas Cowboys should get me. Is for this reason.
And you know what? Like, I've gone back and forth on this, and me and you have talked a lot about this, so I think my stance on the situation. Last year, when he was worth a 1st and a 2nd, I was hesitant because think about it. Well, I'm not gonna say it that way because that's hindsight. So I'll talk about it in my perspective at that time. 1st and a 2nd was a lot, man. It was a lot. It's a lot, and frankly, back then I didn't really think that as much as I wanted it to happen, obviously, but I didn't think we should have. I'm glad we didn't do it, because if we would have done it, CD would have been on the Eagles. So
That's true.
so
That is
I'm
true.
so I'm really glad we didn't do it. But like I said, that's hindsight. My opinion stood firm with I don't think we should have done it, even though even though I really wanted it. But now things are a little different.
It's
First
a
and a
better
third.
situation for sure.
Yes.
If you are the Cowboys or really any
Yeah.
team that's looking
Oh
at getting
yeah.
a safety.
So specifically for us though, we're in a better situation now.
Yeah.
And then now it's first and a third. Now, don't get me wrong, third round picks are still valuable in my opinion because there's still some pretty good decent talent at the third round. That first round pick, it hurts, but man, you got Jamal Adams in his prime, dude. I mean,
I don't even think he's reached the ceiling yet. Like he
he's
hasn't
probably
reached his prime.
he's probably barely reaching his prime, Like, yeah, I agree with you. That could probably be the case. So the only issue now that I have, and this is where I'm going to refer back to the problem with Dak. He wants $20 million a year as a safety. Can we afford that if we pay Dak?
No.
No.
Like straight up no.
No.
That
So
ain't gonna happen.
Exactly. So that's the problem that I have with this. So now it comes down to this. And I think this is where I guess I'm going to hold my opinion on. Whatever happens with Dak in these next 3 weeks is going to show what happens with Jamal. That's how it's going to be. Because I really don't, unless somehow that if he really wants to come to Dallas that bad and we're willing to take on his rookie contract and convince him to, because this is his third year, so technically first rounders get 4 years automatically, right? On their rookie draft.
I think this following season would be the last year of his rookie contract.
So this season would be his last year. Okay,
I'm,
so that makes it a
I'm
little
pretty
different.
sure that's the case.
Okay, so that makes it a little different.
Because they can get him for cheap this year for just doing the trade, and then they have to worry about it next year for his contract.
Yeah. So there's only two situations in my mind that's going to happen with this. The first one that I said, like whatever happens with Dak these next 3 weeks, that's what's going to happen with Jamal. Or the second option, where we do trade for Jamal, we pay Dak. I don't know what it's going to happen this upcoming season because, there's life has its ways. But we franchise tag Jamal next year. Because I don't know if the CBA deal lowers by position. Do you know that?
I mean, I don't necessarily think there's like a number to each position. I just know that it's like just salary cap wise, you have more money. You will have more money as far as like organizations go because you have more revenue coming in. That's all I know. Okay. I think it's just purely based on the market at that point.
Okay, so then in that case, those are the only two things that I see happening. My first one and then this one. We franchise tag Jamal, or like we convince him that to franchise tag so we can pay him 2021. Yeah, 2021. When we have more money, when, like the Dak deal's already been done for a year and, like next year we have more money. So those are really the only two options I see with this Jamal deal because, man, Cowboys have a history of just screwing up high value safeties. I mean, we could have had Earl Thomas 2 years ago. We could have had Earl Thomas last year, actually, as well.
Yeah.
And we just didn't do it. And if anything, I think you could agree with me that getting Earl Thomas 2 years ago and Earl Thomas last year, it could have been done.
It could have.
It could have been.
Here's
done.
the thing: it's kind of the same situation. It's like the amount of money that he's asking for. Earl Thomas, I'm willing to pay Jamal Adams or trade more for Jamal Adams right now because he's so young, and they can get him under long term or even just for a year. Have that type of ability at that safety position, which they've never had really in this like century. Yep. Like they just never had that type of talent at that position, and especially going from Jeff Heath. No matter if it's a year or 5 years, you're gonna have an improvement.
Yeah.
Earl Thomas being past his prime, still a great player, but past his prime, still asking for prime money. That's the issue that I had, and I was okay with them not going for Earl Thomas. Ravens, they just found money somewhere. It's the same thing with the Rams. Like, they just found money like
Yeah,
in a vault, because there's just no way that you can pay that many people at once.
Yeah.
Like, the Cowboys just don't have that luxury. And if they would have paid Earl Thomas, they would have given up like draft picks up front. They would have put up the big contract that would have ultimately kind of discouraged all the other contracts going on with Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott. Like, you're going to have to eventually do it with Michael Gallup. You have the defensive guys as well, because you just signed them for free agency. So overall, it was going to be disastrous if you wanted to get Earl Thomas for 1 year on a defense that last year was just atrocious overall. Like, it didn't matter if you put a safety in there. It wasn't going to matter. Like, it was going to be a small improvement, but ultimately that was a downfall.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question then. Do you think Jamal Adams is worth a second go around of the Amari Cooper situation, where
First round,
you know, he's worth the first round pick, and the first day of that draft, we don't see anything from the Cowboys in the first round.
I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm
Yeah?
absolutely fine with that. You
So-
know how rare it is to have that opportunity to where you have one of the, like, probably the second best wide receiver on the board available at 17, and then you got not lucky, but the chips fell into your lap
I'd
as
say it's
far as
pretty
free
lucky.
agency. Like,
That's pretty-
when you look at the free agency offseason for the Dallas Cowboys, it's a home run. I mean,
Yeah.
just as good as their draft class, if not better. Yet we didn't know that at that time. We knew that they had Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy, but we didn't know how solid it was in free agency as far as the whole collective in the defensive side of the ball. So by taking CeeDee Lamb at 17, it was a risk. It was definitely something that I don't think you should do 9 times out of 10. But that one time out of 10, you take it for CeeDee Lamb. So for CeeDee Lamb to fall into 17 was amazing to me. I thought he should have gone higher. Was a blessing, and a real, like, I mean, just a jackpot of a pick. Yet it's not going to happen every single year. Cowboys are really good at picking guys in round 1, round 2. They're really good at that. Yet if I'm willing to give up that for a guaranteed safety that is finishing off a problem that we have on defense, that wants to come to Dallas, that is ready to go, playing at an elite level, and wants to play for this team, and works under a great coaching staff that can put him anywhere on the field, I'm taking that guarantee over a random college guy that may or may not work. Because K'Lavon Chaisson was a really good pick, but at the same time, there was concerns of, like, is he ready? Like, is he ready to play that position at a high level? And at 17, that's risky. Like, that's too much of a risk. I get it. The money side is completely different because you can get a guy cheap. You can get a guy just really quick for 4 years and see if he develops. Tristan Hill is one of those examples that didn't work out. You get him cheap, even though you wanted to fill that problem, it did not work. So now you got to pay money for your Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy to fix that issue. You got to pay money. You can't cheap out in the NFL now. And if you're Jerry, since when do you cheap out on anything? Like, why should you?
For real.
Like, you are supposedly one of the most like front runners as far as, like, owners wise, like decision making. Like, you came up front as soon as you bought the team and said, Herschel Walker, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, that's your first move. And yet you want to go cheap now and say, I want to still win a Super Bowl, but, like,
I'm not willing to dish out the money.
Exactly. It's like, I want to go get groceries, but I'm going to buy everything from Walmart at great value. Like, you're not getting good products. Like, you're just cheaping out.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked that question was just because, at least for me and you, it was very obvious that Amari Cooper was worth that first round.
Yes.
I remember when that whole trade went down. Oh, Jesus Christ. The world just flipped over on its backside and just was crying out that the Cowboys were a bunch of idiots, a bunch of morons, and then the draft day came out and people were still, like, bagging on the Cowboys. And look at it now. I mean, it was so obvious that he was worth the first round pick. Now, the reason why I asked that is because me and you both know that it would happen again if we did it with Jamal Adams. The same exact reaction would come out. So do I think he's worth it? Back then, no. Now, yes. Because we're in a better spot. We could possibly, like you said, there's a lot of conflicting reports. But if it's true that he really does want to play for Dallas because he loves it that much, I don't see why he wouldn't say no to one more year of holding out, get franchise tag, and then get his money 2021. You know?
The situation now compared to like in the season when a lot of people would have been desperate or more willing to give up more at that time just to get that playoff push, it was a hard situation for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's one of the reasons why. The first round and the second rounder, at that point, I don't think it was worth it. No. I get the argument, but at that time, I think in that point of the season, I didn't believe in the Cowboys enough to say, yeah, dude, like this is it. Like this is it. You need to make that move, and I guarantee you they win a Super Bowl. Like that was there was no point in the season where I felt that way. So making that move for that season was a dud. So now when basically everything's falling into place as far as the Cowboys getting a better deal out of this. Of course they're going to get a great player in Jamal Adams. Yet now with all these teams that are interested in a safety saying we're not going to pay $20 million a year for a safety. All of them are saying that, including the Cowboys. So now Jamal Adams has to be like, okay, I'm probably not going to get that if I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And then the Jets are probably going to be even more desperate, or Jamal Adams is going to be more desperate. If they don't want to make a scene, Jamal Adams is going to be like, just get me out of here. Jamal will just be like, just get me out of here because I want to be out of here. I'm not going to play for you. The Jets still want him, but now they're just going to be like, look, it's going to be a whole issue, and it's going to be a distraction all season if we don't get rid of this guy. It's going to hurt, but we have to do it because otherwise that's going to be the main storyline for the season. If we don't get rid of him, everyone's going to judge us. Yeah. So they're going to ask for less. It's not going to be a second rounder. It's probably going to be a third rounder or maybe a player. So if you're the Cowboys, first and third, I'm doing that. I'm doing that without a doubt. First and Jordan Lewis, I'm doing that. I'm sorry, Jordan, but I'm doing that. I think right now the cornerbacks are still not in a solidified place, but they're still in a good spot than they were last season.
Yeah, I mean, I could agree with that statement. I think Trevon Diggs is going to help out some. Has it been officially confirmed that Chidobe's a safety now?
No, but it would surprise me if he didn't.
Okay, so let's go off the basis that Chidobe is now a safety. So the cornerbacks do need a little bit more help. They're better, but man,
But if you balance that out with Jamal Adams,
just thinking about that, man,
around the field,
man, just think about it, because Jamal Adams, dude, that guy plays like a safety. That guy plays like a middle linebacker. Man, I've seen some plays where he plays like an outside linebacker, and he rushes the quarterback, and he's looking monstrous doing it.
He's phenomenal at rushing the quarterback.
So good, dude. I don't see why you don't push for it. And like I said, the two scenarios that I said earlier of how I think this could happen, at the end of the day, I just think it has to be done. It has to. He would elevate our defense so much, and Hot Boys would return, because we know damn well Hot Boys wasn't there last year.
It wasn't.
So
it really wasn't.
He would be able to help bring that back. Oh man, I think it has to be done now that the team's in a better situation, for sure.
I don't know the exact about the money. Like, let's say Dak is signed. There is still a chance that you can get Jamal Adams by restructuring contracts, or you just get him on a really good deal, which they have done in the past, like, off season. Like, they've gotten guys on great deals this off season, phenomenal deals, which is amazing to me. So I think that Mike McCarthy little like swagger, that little like, I guess the little like sweet talk that Mike McCarthy can bring to the table, I think that might help as well. Especially saying like, dude, we got Clint Dix. If it's and Jamal Adams next to each other, I mean, I am salivating at the sight of that. I mean, it's an amazing thing to watch, because at every position you have a star. You have a star or a star in the making at every position defensively. If Jamal goes to Dallas, Kevin, I'm going to say it. They're winning a Super Bowl.
Oh,
There is no, like, at that point, there's no excuses. Because think of it. Like, the only way that you can really get away with having a first-year coach, let's say a Sean McVay, literally happened a few years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. They had Sean McVay under the first year. And yet, when you look at the roster, you're like, oh, they're stacked. I mean, they're stacked rosters, but then there was the Rams. Because they just bought everybody and they built a really good organization for that time. And they had really good coaches. They had experienced coaches. So Mike McCarthy could be the Wade Phillips of that type of realm. And Mike McCarthy could be the considered like Sean McVay, analytic and really like young, prosperous, refreshing coach in Dallas like he was in Los Angeles. And yet the roster was so good that they could win games based on their talent. They'll win games based on the coaching staff, and if they played well, there's no doubt that you can win games. But you can beat a lot of these bad teams, and other than the Ravens, other than who else?
Kansas City, San
Francisco. Like those are going to be. You have to play at a high level with the coaching staff and the players. Like you have to play a perfect game at that point. But against the Bengals, against the Redskins, you just have to show up. Yeah. If you got Jamal Adams and Ha Clinton Dix in the backfield, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what plays you call. As long as you got them on the field, you're gonna win. That's how confident I would be if Jamal Adams was with that defense. Because at that point, they've just done so many great things that I think it's unbearable to think that they can lose games based on all the players didn't play well. Like that should never come out of the mouths of any analyst or any person from the Dallas Cowboys organization. Is the players did not show up today. Bullshit. They're all Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Don't tell me they didn't show up.
Man, that duo sounds so good.
That might be
Jamal Adams.
That might be the best dynamic duo in a secondary that I could see in the NFL. There's some really good ones, but damn. Yeah.
I mean, listen, dude, I've been saying it for the past couple of months. I don't think there is any excuse for the Cowboys not to be, in the Super Bowl this season. Granted, I'm not dumb. I understand your argument of like first year like coaching staff, which is a valid argument. I get it. You can't expect someone to, just come in and then right away, like learn everything and bring everything and make everything happen. But in this case, I just don't see how it's not Super Bowl. You got Mike McCarthy, that he's a proven head coach. You got a coaching staff that, damn, they look really good on paper.
And just a solid coaching staff.
Exactly. And like you just said right now, basically every single position that the Cowboys have, minus cornerback right now because we lost Byron Jones, and also a little bit of safety, has a Pro Bowler in there that has a stud. Any single position, say it, there's a stud there. If we add Jamal Adams to that just solidifies my point even more. I agree with you 100%. I think that this Jamal deal has to happen, but I'm still going to reserve myself and say that whatever happens with Dak Prescott these next 3 weeks is going to be a big indicator on what steps are going to be taken to either acquire Jamal, and I'm going to say it, but hopefully it doesn't happen, if we end up skipping out on Jamal.
Guarantee you. I'm going to put a guarantee on this right now.
All right.
If the Cowboys do not get Jamal Adams, he's going to the Eagles. Guaranteed. Just because it's a fascinating story that a guy that wants to come to the Cowboys so bad, and the Cowboys say we can't do it, he'll be like, bet, let me go to Philly. Let me prove to them why they should have gotten me, because he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got stuff to prove. He can play at an elite level, and the Eagles are starving for a secondary.
Yeah, they really are.
Starving. They made some good moves this offseason in their secondary because that was atrocious last year. But
Yeah.
getting Jamal would be the icing on the cake.
Let me tell you something. If the Eagles were to get Jamal Adams, I'm locking myself in my room for 3 weeks and just fetal position contemplating.
It's oof.
I've said this to you multiple times. I despise the Eagles with all my heart. And it's just the Cowboy fan in me. I hate the Eagles. And man, that'd be rough. That would be rough if Jamal Adams signs with the Eagles, because having to play him twice a year, knowing that he's going into those games and he just wants to crush us, dude, because because we couldn't get him. Yeah. So if he goes to the Eagles, I'm losing my mind.
See, I don't like. I think I know it's the normal thing to like hate the Eagles or hate the Giants, hate the Redskins. To me, like, I don't hate the Eagles. I actually, like, when they won the Super Bowl, I was actually happy for them because of the fact that, like, Doug Peterson's such a great coach. I liked Carson Wentz a lot.
Yeah.
I thought they built a defense that was just physical, that was, like, Jim Schwartz did a phenomenal job with that defense.
Jim Schwartz was amazing.
And Nick Foles on that run was amazing. Beating the New England Patriots was a great story as well. They had really good running backs like Jay Ajayi that year. I mean, it was great.
Corey Clement.
Oh,
man,
dude,
that guy
like
is
such a
so good.
Great, like, well-run organization, like, in that period of time. The only thing I hate is the Eagles fans. Fans are horrible.
Jesus
I know
Christ.
a few, like I know a few from high school. I know a few from my like personal experience, and those guys are great. Those guys aren't like Eagles fans in the sense of like they will hate on everything, like toxic, yes.
Yeah.
Like, but I can't describe it. Like, those are the most toxic fans in sports.
Yeah,
There's some soccer fans that are like really bad, but I think they're just dumb. Like, Eagles fans just have something built into them to where they like it's just built into the brain. Like, no, you're gonna hate the Cowboys.
So I think it's funny because like in the NFL, I think in the NFL it could be said that the most toxic and the most annoying fan bases are the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Raiders, and the Patriots. Yes. By far, those four.
Well, I wouldn't put the Patriots in there.
You wouldn't? I would. No, I've had some horrible experiences.
If my team's winning that much, I don't give a fuck.
Well, that's a good point. That is very
I can talk shit all day because we win. We win all the time. But if you're the Raiders, especially the Cowboys, I hate Cowboys fans. I hate them.
I hate them so much.
It's so bad. Like,
it's really bad.
The stereotype of like they're gonna win the Super Bowl this year is absolutely true. And I'm one of those Cowboys fans that I'm like, no, we're not winning the Super Bowl this year.
Like I think it was like before the beginning of last season, and I don't know who exactly. I think it was just like some guy that I knew in my class, and me and him were talking. He was like, "Bro, we're winning the Super Bowl this year," and I'm like, "No, guy, like not this year. Like maybe divisional, maybe,
yeah,
but not this year.
Like they should make the playoffs and maybe win a game, but that's it."
Like there's something off. And then he looked at me and he was like, he was dead serious. He was like, "Aren't you a Cowboys fan?" And I was like, "Yeah, but like
there's one word you forgot in there. Yeah, realistic.
Let's be a
realistic sports fan."
And he was like, "No, man, you're not a fan. If you're a real fan, you'd say Super Bowl." And I'm like, "Listen, guy, this is why people don't like us. Like because of that, you know." And then I don't know, man. It's just I've had some really bad experiences with like Patriots fans personally, but at the same time, like you said, I understand. You know, shit. If the Cowboys were winning, I'd be talking shit nonstop. You know, but man, those Eagles fans, dude,
they're bad.
Oh my god, I've been in some pretty heated arguments with some Eagles fans just because they're so toxic, dude, and
stubborn. Really
they're
stubborn.
So toxic. They're so stubborn. Dude, I'll never forget, just like really quick before we move on to the next topic, there was this one guy, and I'll never forget it just because of how mind blown I was. This Eagles fan was so toxic and so stubborn, and it even gets me upset talking about it to this day. My man was still hung up on Donovan McNabb.
Damn.
He was still hung up on Donovan McNabb because, quote unquote, Donovan McNabb would hand L's to us every time we would play. And my man hasn't played in the league for like 7-10 years, dude. Like, anyway, but
I mean, I think
yeah,
that's.
dude. Yeah.
I mean, like to go back that far. I mean, at that
Exactly.
time, I mean, the Cowboys were shit. I mean, they
Yeah.
were horrible.
Yeah.
I'll say it straight up. Like, yeah, you
They
handed us
were.
L's because we sucked.
I think like besides 2007, besides 2007, the Cowboys from 2000 to 2010, horrific, awful. They
One
were
of the
they were
worst teams
bad.
in the NFL for sure.
They were
For
bad.
sure.
So this man over here was just like using Donovan McNabb to like get me upset, and I was like, okay, guy, holding on.
I think at this point, like neither fan base should like talk. I mean,
Dude,
I think the
agree.
only thing you could talk about
100%.
is the Super Bowl that they won like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if you're talking about last season, like nobody won. Like
Yeah.
they won the division. The Eagles won the division, but they didn't win the division.
Yeah.
Like no one won last year. They were both horrible.
Literally both teams had it in their hands until like 1 second left in the fourth quarter of both games, and the Eagles just had that last second strength to rip it out. But
Yeah.
it
was not a fun season last year for either fan bases or for either teams. Speaking of fun during the season, we'll see if we even have a fucking season, because now we're reaching the point of COVID affecting the NFL season. No word on training camps or OTAs being rescheduled, being canceled, taking it day by day, with all these other sports coming along and saying, look, we're going to continue the season. We're going to basically revamp the season. The MLB just confirmed that they're going to do a 60-game schedule if the players are willing to go ahead with the procedures of like health and guidelines.
MLBPA though, they've been rough. But that's another league. It's another story.
Yeah. Basketball is going to start right at the end of July. It'd be surprising to me if the NFL does not go on with the season, because there's just so much money involved. And I mean, I don't know, man. Did you see the helmets that they're like kind of like building that are like COVID friendly?
It's like a plastic mask around their face mask, right?
Yeah. I mean, it looks cool, but at the same time, we're going to see people die of heat stroke.
Yeah.
100%. Because like how can the NFL, who is majority like people that played football in the past or they haven't played football at all, say, "Oh yeah, this is safe for our players who give it their all every single Sunday, and then we also let them play on Thursdays when their bodies aren't fully recovered."
Don't even get me started on Thursdays, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And then also take in consideration that let's say I don't know, like a center or like a guard who literally gets hit every single play and has to try his hardest every single play, can barely breathe with a normal face mask, can now function with a mask built into a helmet that can, limit the amount of breathing. Dude, I work at Best Buy, and I'll have a mask on, and I'm sweating my ass off.
Oh, dude, I hate those masks. I hate wearing the masks. But you gotta do what you gotta do.
Like, imagine what they feel like, just like playing football, like normally. So put on a mask, dude. I don't think that's right.
So it's a really, really rough situation, just because, recently, I think Zeke was like among the very first group of players in the NFL to get coronavirus.
Well, reported.
That's true. Reported,
because it was like the Texans and the Cowboys. Like there are several players that are that tested positive for COVID, and then, of course they're gonna go with the main name of Ezekiel Elliott. But if we're talking about like just players around the league,
I bet you some of them.
I mean, it's hundreds. It is hundreds, and just the sheer fact that we have like the leader of our country saying, "Well, then don't test so we don't get cases," is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. But yet that's what's happening. Like like 100% in NFL and in sports, there is players that are like testing positive or have COVID. They just haven't get it tested yet, or they just won't put it out to the public.
Yeah. I it's going to be a really rough situation just because, like you were saying earlier, it's not even, besides the fact that the players should always be the number one, uh, you know, the number one most important thing about the game. I don't know if you've seen Ballers. Have you on
I have
HBO?
not. I've seen like one episode because Eddie used to watch it in the dorm. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good show because it has like all
Yeah.
these different like players in it. Like it's Jarvis Landry one time. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, dude, man, I'm telling you, like, if you ever watch Ballers, like, that should be the standard of what the NFL should be. Actually looking out for the players the way how like The Rock was like portrayed in that show. But we all know it's not going to happen. I mean, at the end of the day, money, safety. Let's be real. That's just
Yeah.
the way life is. I agree with you that it's probably not going to happen, that the season is going to be either postponed or delayed or something like that. The season will probably start on time. Is it worth it? I don't think so. There's a lot of dude, just imagine, like, these players are some of the most, like, I guess you could say, like, healthiest, most like fit, like if anybody were to be able to survive COVID, it'd probably be NFL players because of their regimen, But
It's not
is it
about
worth?
that. I don't think it's about that.
Is it worth even risking it? Should you even put players in harm's way of that? Should you even put the safety of the general public at stake? There's so many factors that go along to this whole entire decision. But at the end of the day, is it going to happen? I don't think so.
Like, just in general, like, it doesn't matter if it's sports or not. Like, us two, if we got infected, if we tested positive, we're fine. Like,
Yeah.
we'd feel the symptoms, but we can recover without a doubt. The problem is spreading that. It's the problem of getting to our parents, getting to our nieces and nephews, our siblings. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm not worried about me. I do not care if I get it or not, as far as like my health, because I do enough for myself to where I can continue and I'll be fine. I'll do my part as far as quarantine goes. But the whole reason why I'm doing that is so that my niece and nephew that are 2 and 3 years old do not get infected, because they're at trouble. Like, they're in trouble. My parents, who are a little bit older, their immune systems aren't as strong. Those are the people that we have to look out for. So if you're a player that has kids, and a lot of these players do, they have a wife, they have a significant other, they have kids that they have to take care of. That's why they play the game. They have coaches that are 60, 70 years old. And if they get infected, that's the problem. That's where we have an issue. Then you take into consideration of the fans. Fans, let's say for like Atlanta, who, like, let's say, or even in Texas, like, that are allowing these big stadiums, and they're allowing like 50% of stadiums to be filled. Well, look at the Cowboy Stadium. If we allow 50% of the Cowboy Stadium to be filled up for a game, that's still 40 to 50,000 people.
Yeah.
At least. And you don't like tell me that at least one of those people will have it, even though they don't know they have it. And then they start to infect the other people around them. And then a lot of those people are like older white people, and then they'll get infected. And then the Texas cases will go even higher. And then we just fall into a domino effect, like a waterfall of like shit.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm looking out for. This is the reason why in Texas, even though the cases are getting higher and higher each day, we're literally confirming the highest amount of cases every day for the last like 5 days. And the governor, who just said, open this bitch up, we're fine, and saying, look, no, we can't close down. Like, that's our last resort. Like, that's the stupidity that we're working with. And that's the reason why I have a problem with sports opening up. And I am so glad, so happy that there are people in the NBA, there's players in the NBA, and I hope there is in the NFL, to where there's outspoken and they're saying, look, this is not the best idea. Like, we should not restart the season. I'm thinking about sitting out because even though you go through these guidelines, even though you say, look, you're going to get tested every single day before you walk in the building, you're going to have these like temperature checks, you're going to get tested for it. It does not matter because it only takes one. And if they don't know they have it for, let's say, 4 hours, in those 4 hours, they can do a lot of damage. They can do a lot of things no matter what. And they can be like, oh, you don't have to wear a mask, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. That's just even more trouble.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying that. Is it really worth risking player safety? Is it really worth risking, the general public safety? Just because, the best example is what you said. These players, these people, they have families that they go home to, and they got young ones. They got, like they might be older in age in general. And the actual thought of, having the season start, having the season in certain cases like the MLB and the NBA, having them, continue the season, and even I'll say this, in drastic measures, which probably won't happen because, it's all about money, but in drastic measures where they don't even allow anybody in the stadium, okay, fine, but the players are still at risk, and they're still at risk of spreading it to someone else. There's at the end of the day, there's no winning. This situation has no win. Everything is a loss. And to be quite fair, maybe the loss is okay. Would you rather have the loss of, forfeiting money, but having your players, having the general public safe? Or would you rather just risk it all just because you want to make a quick buck? And it's sad to say that
that's our country. That's our world.
Probably the latter. Yeah, it's probably the latter that's going to happen. So
and the influence that it has. I literally saw a report where the UAL director for Texas said we're gonna try our best to get the season going for the fall, for like football, for all these different sports. I'm like, that's the example you're setting if you're doing it at a professional level. You are saying that we'll put guidelines and we'll do tests and all that. But ultimately, the reason why we're doing this is for the money. It's to help the economy. Yet, you're putting the safety and the health of people second. That's how we portray our society in this country. With all the problems going on, it does not matter about your health and safety. You can go down to the systemic level of police brutality. You can go to the level of sports starting up again. That's the reason why these players, I should say, are very hesitant about going back to normal, about doing the season. Is that there is other stuff going on in this world that we need to take care of first before we play our sport at a normal level. How come in the world aspect, all these different countries like Italy, like Spain, France, like let's say for example soccer, like they're allowing a lot of these countries to put in a certain amount of fans, a large amount of fans after their lockdowns and all that. That is scary, but when you look at the facts, when you look at the stats of these cases and the deaths, they do not compare whatsoever to what's been going on in the United States. Like Spain, France, Italy, like these guys had maybe 100,000 cases. I think even less than that. Let's say like half that.
Well, Italy was the worstly affected. No, worstly, is that even a word? The worst affected country in Europe. Italy was horrific. It was scary.
But here's the difference: is that they went complete lockdown for weeks. And they knew exactly what to do. And every single one of those citizens knew exactly what they needed to do their part. And then after a while, they didn't report any cases for weeks. So then they're like, okay, we can finally go back to normal. There's still some restrictions. There's still some lockdown issues, like including in like England as well. But they're not as severe now because they took care of it in the first place. The United States never took care of it in the first place. They said, let's sort of close it down, but also like you can still go out. And then every state had their own different aspect and their own different guidelines. Like Texas never knew what the fuck was going on. They just said like quarantine, but also we'll still have some stuff open up. And then
Yeah.
even then, it was a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks after that where they're like, okay, we can open up restaurants, we can open up malls now, which are the most like contagious type of areas. And now it's like people just avoid that and say, oh, we're back to normal now that we see other things back to normal. If we're getting the NFL season, then we can just go back to what we were doing before,
Yeah.
which is horrible, absolutely horrible.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, man, it's gonna be hard. I don't know what to say, just because like there's really, I feel like no matter what we say, like the exact opposite's gonna happen. So it's kind of just like, why waste your time, you know?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, like I'll go on rants, but I know for a fact like the NFL season will not change.
yeah.
Absolutely not. Like I've seen plenty of stuff in the past few weeks. Like I literally went out yesterday, just to pick up some food, do some curbside pickup, like that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you the amount of people I saw without masks,
Oh, dude. I
without any sense of like knowing what's going on.
yeah.
And it's sad that that's just the small little portion of what I've seen at the elite level of like government and officials. They could care less either, and they're setting that example for people that I see on a daily basis.
So I don't know if you've read, but like El Paso has like uh, they've sent a letter. They sent multiple letters to like the governor saying that, like, hey, like we're still getting a lot of cases. Like we're not gonna be following Texas guidelines. Like we're still gonna stay at like, I think 25%, while the rest of Texas is like already at 50 or 75, something like that.
Probably, I mean,
Yeah,
bro, at this point, I feel like it's just normal.
yeah. So El Paso is the like governor. I mean governor. The Mayor Margot has already sent like a bunch of letters to the governor, and like like he's actually trying to keep things contained here, which I respect, and thank God. But man, dude, I can't tell you how many people I saw this weekend come into the restaurant where I work at. And, we have things in order for it to be as safe as possible. And yet I had to tell people so many times, please give some space. Please put on your mask.
Yeah,
I just don't get it, dude. And then and it's funny because because I work in a restaurant that, like, I'm not trying to sound like egotistical, but like we're a very popular restaurant, and we're probably one of the best restaurants in El Paso. And I get it that people want to come in, and I get it that there's going to be lines like there always is, but come on, man, it's not that hard. Like, spread apart. Like, I understand if you're with your loved one, like you live with them, like I'm not going to force you to stand 6 feet away from your
right.
husband or your wife, but dude,
Have some respect.
these people were standing next to complete strangers, and it's like, do you not understand what's going on right now? Like,
Yeah.
is there like, do you just think that this is like a lie, like those idiot conspiracy like theorists that like think that this is all fake, and it's like what did I say? Oh, a conditioning tactic. That's what I saw.
Oh yeah.
I was like, and I'm like, dude, Jesus Christ. So, dude, it's like it's literally one thing after another with this whole situation, and it's just opening all the leagues. It's not going to get better.
Ultimately, no matter what level, like in your personal experience or at the sports level, ultimately the main issue is the money. Like that's all it is.
The money, it's all it is.
That's all this country and most of the world lives off of, and that's what keeps it going. I understand that it helps the economy, but there is a level to that, and there's a ceiling to that before you start thinking about others and you start thinking about the safety of others. Look, man, I will. They basically told us at work, like, hey, you got to wear your mask no matter what. And I'm like, for sure. And they're like, it's optional to wear gloves. I'm like, you got to think about that. Like, gloves are almost as important as masks.
Oh yeah,
because
for sure.
touching
100%.
surfaces, like it's so easy for someone to catch that based on a surface that they just randomly touch. So you mean to tell me that I have to wear a mask, but I can't wear gloves, or I don't have to? You're contradicting yourself,
dude. And the thing about this too, like, for example, the reason, and like we're talking about like touching surfaces and like wearing protective gear because of that, man. These sports, especially in this case that we're talking about football, you are basically touching another human being that is sweating their ass off for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get it. Like, hopefully, I pray that, you know, like maybe in 3 months things will, you know, kind of settle, kind of calm down. I'm hoping, because Jesus Christ, the world needs it. But can you imagine, dude? Like, there's going to be 22 players on a certain field, wrapping each other, tackling each other, you know, just basically in physical contact for 60 minutes, or in reality 3 hours, because we all know how that timetable is. And dude, they're going to get everything on them by another person, and they don't know that that person has it or not. And sometimes, like you said earlier, that person doesn't know if they have it or not. So
Well, I mean, I think a good example, and we'll end it on this because we're closing up on time. I know you got to go.
oh yeah.
But the UFC has done probably the best out of any league so far. I mean, they were the first to really come back, and they'll go to a seclusive like area. They're doing Fight Island, so that way it's just like international fights, or whoever around the world wants to come there. It is secure. It's not like a super widespread area. They do testing every single day. They do a variety of testing throughout all these different like fighters and the people involved with the UFC. And then immediately, there's only been one case probably confirmed since they started doing the fights in a very private area. And they immediately quarantine that. So I feel like if they're going to go with the NFL, I don't think that's the area that we have to worry about, because they're going to do testing, and they're probably going to do testing every single day that those players are there. I think it's a matter of limiting the training facilities, limiting the amount of staff on hand. But that's where the issue is that you can't limit everything. You can't control everything that happens in these guys' lives, because once they get off the field, and every single one of those 53 guys on that roster, whether they go against each other or not, it's not about them, because they're probably safe. They're probably safe when they're on the field, but it's when it's off the field. It's when they go back home, or when they, like, do they have to stay at a certain area for the entire season? Do they get to go back home? And then from there, they get to go grocery shopping. They get to go shopping, whatever. Like, that's where the problem is. And then they come back. And then they maybe talk to a few guys, and, you know, a group of linemen get the virus. And then by the time you do a test, well, it's too late because they're already infected. That's where I see the issue. It's not about being on the field. It's after the fact. Well, and I think it's going to be too hard to do that when you have 32 teams and you have 53 guys on the roster, and you have another 40 or 50 guys as the coaching staff and assistants and all that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I was saying that, like, you know, some of these situations are like, you know, some of these people that contract the virus, like, they got it like 2-3 weeks ago, but they don't even know they have it until you know, like 2 days before. So, like, you make a very good point where, you know, in reality that, you know, like, they're going to be testing, they're going to make sure everything's fine. But, you know, some of the symptoms don't show up until way later. And, and you know, what if the unfortunate circumstance that one of these players gets on the field with it and they just don't know?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of situations that I just see. This whole entire situation with every single 3 sports that's going on right now, because I think NHL canceled their season completely.
Yes, they did.
If I remember correctly, they canceled the season completely. Kudos to them. They actually care. But this is a complete lose-lose situation. Nothing good's going to come out of it.
Yeah, it's always going to be the argument on the other side, no matter what. If they cancel the season, people are going to be like, oh, why'd you cancel the season? And if they don't, they'll be like, oh, why didn't you cancel the season? Like that type of stuff. So I think we're all going to watch, because we love to see sports, and no matter what, that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps you going.
For real.
Like, that's what keeps this thing going. Ultimately, though, like, I'm going to watch that with like a pinch of like a salt and like a tainted view.
This whole season is going to have like an asterisk on it.
Yes.
Like it's you're not going to feel the same, because, you know, and this might sound, you know, like, I'm not trying to be biased, but like for everybody on their specific teams, for everybody that, you know, just enjoys the game in general, like us, where we have our favorite players that are non-Cowboy players. Like, do I want to see Patrick Mahomes getting the virus? No, absolutely not. Do I want to see Lamar getting the virus? Do I want to see Dak? Do I want to see Zeke? No, I don't. So this whole season is going to be like, oh yeah, like, you know, our boys are winning. And then, but at the same time, it's kind of like, damn, like I really hope my boys don't get the virus. Like it's going to be a constant thing in the back of everybody's mind this season.
For sure.
It's
going to be a talking point no matter what. So,
yeah.
All right. So I think we've gone through everything.
Yeah, we have.
Some good time. You were telling me that like Gilbert was saying how my episodes by myself are like 30 minutes, which I try to do. And then if I have guests like you or anybody else, like either more than an hour for sure, it's just easier to have a conversation with someone rather than talking to myself for an hour. I couldn't do that. So, so for the long episode, I apologize, but I hope you enjoyed it. Episode 142 is in the books. I always say this pretty much every few weeks.
143?
143. My bad. I always forget. But yeah, so I say this pretty much every so often, but glad to be back. Hopefully without anything else going on bad in my life. We will continue this, but thank you for joining us, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. We're going on 78 subscribers, so on the road to 100 continues. We'll keep that in mind as we continue these podcasts. But thank you for the following and the support of the podcast. Thank you for Kevin coming back on the podcast once again.
Thanks for inviting me again. Thank you.
We'll probably do this like weekly as we get closer to the NFL season. So,
for sure.
So yeah, for sure, we're gonna keep doing that, and we'll come on later on the week, depending on some other stuff that's happening around sports. I don't know anything really to talk about right now.
It's just a little dry right now. But
it's a little dry. So
we'll find some things.
We know for sure that some big news comes out. We're definitely going to be on that on the Bubble Let Sports podcast. So thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you next time on the Bubble Let Sports podcast.
And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked?